Trump sits on their money. That's what's going on. But nobody's telling the people.
You're telling them now, Mike. Keep going.
Now, what happened was with me, they turned around and sent me to the Department of Justice, United States Attorney Lullen. I gave him the evidence that turned out to be the Pandora Papers, turned out to be that cartel, the corrupt network of judges. They control our courts. Now, this is what you've got to understand now. This monstrosity of drug cartel and money laundering has to be protected. What rules the deep state is who protects. We're in the protection business. Who's powerful enough? Who's got enough influence to be able to protect these cartels, including the Mexican cartels? You ready? It's our own FBI and Department of Justice. They are the deep state. We have been institutionalized by the intelligence departments.
Yep.
Biden, they didn't know, was stealing for 40 years. Listen, the mafia makes you because they can put you to jail.
Sure.
Biden was their candidate. You understand? Obama, and they were all them. They were all, it's protecting that. Now think about this. Maxwell and Epstein, you know what they were? Money launderers. Do you know that's what? They were blackmailers. The currency in Washington is blackmail and extortion because they're all corrupt. That's what an Epstein and Maxwell was. They killed Epstein. Where did Maxwell go? To the state of New Hampshire. Do you know what she bought? LLC, a limited corporation. You know who owned the property before? A cabinet member in the Treasury under the Obama administration. You know where his lawyer was? Bill Shaheen, the architect of the laundering network, the campaign manager of Hillary Clinton, the husband of Senator Jean Shaheen, who was a VP candidate for Biden. Clinton's money's in New Hampshire. Biden's money's in New Hampshire. Obama's money's in New Hampshire. That's why we're in the Ukraine. You know who the trading partner with New Hampshire is? Because they got to go out of the country and back in. The Ukraine and Israel. Ukraine and Israel, who are at war, right? Now think about this. 195 countries, the two that are the heads of the New Hampshire laundering network are the countries that are at war. I don't think it's a coincidence.
No, it's not. But let me ask you this. So
yes.
I've said this many times that it's about arms trafficking and drug trafficking and money laundering. Money laundering was always in the list. And then Zelensky comes along and says, we want to make Ukraine great big bullshit. Oh, that's a Russian word I cannot say. Great big Israel.
Right.
Coincidence?
Wait, how about this? You ready? New Hampshire. Ready?
Yep.
Number one in money laundering in the world. Number one in all of the United States. Ready? For opioids. D880. Now, you ready for this one? Number three. Do you know the small state of New Hampshire? Do you know who manufactures more guns in the United States? The tiny state of New Hampshire. Who do you think is arming the cartels? The state of New Hampshire. The same Jean Shaheen. The same person who wants to take your guns is selling the guns. Now that's 3 for 3 in one of the smallest states in the country. Chris Sununu now is in part of that. Remember his daddy, John Sununu? He was the chief of staff of George Bush in charge of the Fast and Furious. What was it? Guns, money laundering, and drugs. We're right back again. That's the Neenah, Arkansas operation. It's in the state of New Hampshire. Now, there's $300 billion in South Dakota. South Dakota's got like 500,000. They were the second state. So we're into the trillions.
Could we take a wild guess at how many actual individuals are involved? Not low level or mid management, but just at the top.
I'd say most of the Senate and the Congress, they're all influenced. Think about this, right? Congressman Pappas is a member of the cartel. they're all paid, whether it's a special interest through the lobbyists, but more than the lobbyists is the dark money of the cartel, what gets these politicians elected. It's that money that gets them elected. That's why the power of it. And why do you think Matt Gaetz is out there, and they got, what, 8 of them? 8 that are sitting there saying they want everything investigated, including Biden, Hunter Biden, the money laundering, the LLCs. So there's 8. How many people in Congress? Over 400 something, right? That's what I say the percentage is.
Let's say this is the compromising feature of the so-called rhinos to start with. If we're going to be, okay, Democrats bad, Republicans good. Well, not all the Republicans are good. And I'm thinking probably the ones that always...
They're all bad. Let's start by this way. You ready? This is what I would tell the people.
All right.
Don't trust any of them. Nobody. We got podcasters out there that are wish doctors, that are fortune tellers, trying to give us military information. Here you go. Ready? Everything that I've done, I've showed you proof and evidence. You've seen it in the video. You've seen the post. You've seen the settlement. You know who I am. Google me. I'm telling you, you know I was worth $400 million, world champion at Thoroughbred Racing, the largest volume brokerage firm. What would be my motive? I was already rich and famous. My motive was to be murdered, to lose everything. My motive was I'm seeing what they were going to do. Just as a business plan in business, this corruption, they move as a business. And the move every day is to control. How does the few control the many? That is where we are. Digital currency, control. You see what I'm saying? Even with mortgages, control.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if this is a good time, but what I'm going to ask you is this a good time to have this as breaking evidence that is going to, it's critical that it gets out there. But if you have time now, I'll get through it.
Launch it.
So you good?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, all right, here we go. Now on December 18th, 2020, if we're going through history here, we'll know that was the Oval Office meeting where Flynn and Powell and Meadows and Byrne was meeting with Trump. Okay, and then the subject was, how do you stay in office? From that office, Oval Office, Flynn texts me and his assistant asking for me to speak to me. And then he, again, texts me, and they want my $50 million settlement, and I sent them all a bunch of evidence, and they want my affidavit. Now, think about this. Flynn and Powell reached out, text me to get an affidavit, which I signed and gave it to them, 15 pages. So I'm telling you, General Flynn and Sidney Powell, from the office in front of the president, called me and asked me for my help. Why? Because they knew that I had their money, the laundering network. Trump didn't pull the trigger. Flynn snatched it up. Now, I always wondered, how did Flynn know my number? I was using burning phones, and I was hiding in Orlando. Guess what? The FBI snatched my videographer. He gave them my phone. The FBI called and threatened me about helping Flynn. Now, helping Flynn, starting on December 18th, from December 18th to the January 7th, I was working with his team, the January 6th team. I wasn't working on the January 6th. I was giving them the evidence that was going to incriminate them by their money, which is why Trump's in New Hampshire now, because it was always the right plan. And you know why it was the wrong plan? Because Flynn's an FBI. He works for the FBI. He set Trump up on January 6th. It was a setup. You hear me in text communications with Flynn saying it was going to be a setup. The FBI was going to infiltrate. And you know something? I'm thinking to myself, you can't be that stupid. And I'm sending him texts back and forth, and guess what? He wasn't that stupid. He's intelligence. They got rid of Flynn. And, got rid of Trump. And you know who started getting rid of Trump, who's also an agent working with the FBI? Roger Stone. He was the connection with WikiLeaks that got Trump investigated from the beginning. It was always an FBI setup. But how about this? Breaking news. I've got a witness. There was an FBI with Audra Toope. Audra Toope, I ran State of Corruption. I would meet hundreds of victims. When I come up with evidence, these guys come up with it out of the air. I met with all these people. These people trusted me. They were victims. I'd go to court with them. But one of these days, I had Aaron Day, Eileen Landy. These were all Project Veritas people. Project Veritas is what gave me the cartel. I had the money laundering, but now I had all of it. And Project Veritas traded me out to Sununu and the cartel. That's how Sununu became governor. That's how Shaheen became senator. It was a deal. Now think about this. That woman, Audra Toope, as one of hundreds. But at that point, Project Veritas, Aaron Day, was working with the cartel and the feds. So when she came in with a simple aseptic scam, they turned her name into the FBI. The FBI was calling all my witnesses and threatening them, except they called her. I guess they still called her even though it's septic. But this is what they said to her. You're talking to Mike Gill? If you continue, we're going to put a bullet in your effing head. But Audra Toope recorded it. She recorded it. So now we've got the feds on the phone threatening to murder witnesses. Guess what? They sued, they arrested Audra Toope, put her on the 10 most wanted for FBI wiretapping. Okay. They put Audra Toope on hold. We're talking 4 years.
You heard him. Mike Gill. What's happening in Connecticut? 12 minutes. Why are 3 plaintiffs in the 5G lawsuit being threatened at gunpoint? And I've been to the FBI 100 times. 100 times. What is the FBI's role with Judge Meyer?